Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Voice by Matt show. My name is Matt Bertho. I'm your host. And today we have a very, very, very special guest. I got to watch this guy, number 88, for the Kansas City Chiefs play back in the 90s. And we were just talking about the master of the play action, Steve DeBerg, and how he would throw the ball to Mr. JJ Birden is on the Voice by Matt podcast today. And man, JJ, my brother Mark and I and Luke, we used to go nuts. We'd just be like, throw it to JJ, throw it to JJ. So thank you for being on the show today. You're making a childhood dream literally come true and sharing how you found your voice today. So thank you for being here.
No, I appreciate it, Matt. I appreciate the invitation. And it's always nice to talk a little bit about Chiefs football, my career, and then, give a little value to the listeners and see how I can share some success tips for them.
Yeah. Well, let's do a little origin for the people that don't know you and just give them a little origin background, where you grew up, kind of how the home life was with mom and dad. Just a little sneak peek of JJ.
Yeah. So background. So born and raised in Northeast Portland, Oregon. I was raised by a single parent mom who worked really hard to take care of my older brother and sister. And I think she was the first person that really instilled the importance of hard work, doing what you got to do to take care of your family. I remember one point she was a welder, she was doing whatever it took, so always a little guy. And I wasn't really involved in athletics until 10th grade when I was in high school. And I had a coach, Coach Phil Walden, who was my summer track coach. And he saw me running one day and he's like, "You're not running track. You got to run track. You have the gift of speed." And that was my introduction into track and field. And then I naturally thought football would be a good complement. And I remember watching Lynn Swann from the Pittsburgh Steelers make these acrobatic catches. And I thought, that's what I want to do. And so I was a receiver at that point and had a pretty good career in high school in track and in football. And I was an all-state wide receiver. I was the top receiver in the state, but I weighed 133 pounds.
Holy
I was 5'9". Yeah. So no D1 school felt that I could play college football.
Whoa.
And yeah, that was the beginning of a pattern of always being labeled as an underdog, where people just kind of doubt your abilities and don't give you a fair chance. And so not having a desire, Matt, to play college football, I took that personally. I said, you know what, I'm going to show you. And so I put a lot of energy into my track season, and I had a great track career. I had all these Division I schools recruiting me, but I would always ask them the question, what do you think about me trying football one year? And every school said no, except for the University of Oregon Ducks. Yep. They said, you come run for the Ducks. And if you can convince the head coach the second year, you have our blessing. And that's all I wanted, was an opportunity. And, so I went to Oregon on a track scholarship, ran the first year. And the second year, I decided, okay, I got to convince the coach to give me a shot. And so I went out to the spring practices and I start watching how big the guys were. And I'm like, they're not that much bigger than me. I can do this. And so the next day I'm on the field. I'm trying to get the coach's attention at the end of practice. And anyway, Coach Rich Brooks, he sees me, we have a conversation, and he invited me to his office the next day. And I just wore him down, and he said, "Okay, you can walk on," So I was able to walk on. The door was open, and next thing you know, I was a walk on. And next thing you know, they transferred my scholarship to football, and I was on the Ducks. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that I was a walk on at Oregon.
I mean, JJ, that is an awesome story and tenacity about that. You already talked about the gifts that your mom taught you about hard work. And I mean, for a guy that is 133 pounds, I'm 5'9" also.
Okay.
For a guy that's 133 at 5'9", to just, you felt that calling, like, I need to play football. What was it about it?
It wasn't really so much about football. I think it was more about, let's take it a step further, because where I was raised in Northeast Portland, I was raised in the hood, and we struggled growing up.
Okay.
My mom worked hard, but we struggled. We didn't have much. And so early on, I had this desire to break that cycle, to create future opportunities for myself and my family. I didn't want to live like that. So I think that was that why, that was that motivation that was driving me. And so that seed was kind of planted. And I started realizing that athletics could be the route I would take. And then also, too, as you learn more about me through my life, I've been told I'm too small. You don't belong. You should do something else. And I don't know about you, but when someone tells me I can't do something, I'm inspired to say, I'll show you. And that's really what it was. I'll show you I can play D1 football.
So, I mean, as a teacher, I was a public school teacher for 19 years, JJ. So, I coach business professionals now full time on speaking and how to show, how to connect, how to find your voice. I started that in 2019, but I was in public school for 19 years as a choir teacher.
Right.
And your mom, the way that she raised you, like, she's a superstar, because I could always tell and talk to the kids that only had mom, that dad just kind of ran out, right? And so I want to applaud you, first of all, and your mom, because that's a hard thing to do. Especially, you had 2 siblings, correct?
Yes.
And you were the youngest.
I was the middle child.
You're the middle. And so you got to see mom struggle. And you got to see your friends struggle. And what I think is really cool about this is what hope that gives everybody that's going through any kind of stuff in their family. But what I want to know, JJ, because there had to be some kind of male role model. I know you said Lynn Swan, but what was like the role model, like the male role model that made you like find the courage to be like, you know what, I'm gonna play football. I'm gonna go. I mean, Oregon's a big university, man. Like, that's one of the best universities in the nation, bro.
Yeah.
And for you to walk on, I mean, that's kind of like Rudy, bro, like at Notre Dame,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is like the real life, like your version. Yeah, I lived Rudy. I lived that life.
Yeah.
So who was it? Like, was there like a speaker or a leader? Like
yeah, good question. And it was a variety of men. And I always gravitated towards men that were productive, successful, or in some kind of way. And it started first with my uncle. So my uncle, I called him Mr. Uncle Sonny. He was my wife's or my mom's brother. And he was a really good athlete in high school, but he always tells me how he was too distracted with girls and this, that, and the other. And he's like, I could have been pro. And he had the ability, but he said, I was so distracted. And he said, I want to make sure that you don't repeat the mistakes that I made. And Matt, one time I was 16 years old. I was playing JV, or no, I was a senior. And this one game I had 4 touchdowns, just all over the place. They took me out like in the third quarter. It was,
goosebumps, man.
But after the game, my uncle says, nephew, you're going to play in the NFL someday. So he's the first person that mentioned my name in the NFL.
Goosebumps.
And I'm like, Uncle, are you crazy? I'm not playing in the NFL. He goes, no, you're going to play in the NFL. I said, no, I'm not, Uncle. I'm not big enough. No. And he goes, I believe in you so much. I want you to promise me your first NFL touchdown. And I thought Uncle Sonny was crazy.
JJ.
But he's like, say the words. And I go, all right, Uncle, you can have my first touchdown pass.
That's so powerful.
Yeah. But he was like, and he was always a part of my journey, always pouring that belief, and so it was really cool, Matt, because, let's see, October 19th, 2090. I'm with the Kansas City Chiefs. We're playing at Seattle Tacoma Dome,
Oh,
and my entire family drives up from Portland,
come
Oregon.
on.
Yes. And my uncle's in the stands. And I score my first
Come
NFL touchdown.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
JJ.
Here's where it gets interesting. So after the game, I have the ball and I see
Ah.
my family about 20 yards away through the tunnel. And I see my uncle like this. He's feeling pretty proud. So I go up to him, I take the ball and I give him a knee. I take a knee like this and
Oh,
I go like this.
JJ.
And then I go, Uncle, how did you know? He said, Nephew, I knew you had the ability, but see, you didn't believe in yourself. So I needed to pour belief into you until your belief level got to the point where it could take you the rest of the way.
JJ.
And I never forgot that point because he was so right. I didn't believe it, but I got to a point eventually I did. But yeah, so that was one of those early mentors who just was there for me, guiding me along the way.
That's huge. That is huge. There's so much to that story I want to unpack. The first part is what your uncle made you say out loud. And I don't know, like, if you're a Christian or religion is big for you or whatever, but when you declare it and you say it and so this is what I teach my clients: when you speak with emotion, it's gonna happen. And that's what your uncle was brilliant to make you say. Because when you said it, God, the universe, whatever people believe in, was like, okay, JJ's ready. Let's go.
But it's interesting too, because at that time I said it, but I didn't believe it at
But you said
all. But it was like through certain stages of my life, my belief meter kind of went, and then you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, he was definitely one of those early mentors who guided me through the way. And what I did over the years, because I didn't have that father figure, it was always a coach or a relative or a friend or someone, even mentors when I got to the NFL, always gravitating to the ones who have the experience, who've already walked the road I traveled on, that could teach and give me some type of guidance along the way.
Who were some of the people when you were on the team that were good mentors for you?
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I got to Kansas City, Stephon Page.
Yes.
Stephon Page and Emil Harry, both of them, they were so giving, which is kind of unique because not a lot of athletes like to help the young guy who comes in running a 4.3 and much faster than you, because they know that you're kind of competing against each other. But Stephon and Emil were so giving. They were so helpful, and they helped me so much. And they played a key role in my development those early years with the Chiefs. So I made sure that when they were gone and I was the guy with Willie Davis, that when Lake Dawson and Chris Penn came in, I made sure I paid it forward. And I did the same thing with them. And I'll tell you, Matt, one of the more rewarding things was about 4 years ago, I was at the Chiefs alumni event, and I saw Chris Penn, who was a former Chiefs wide receiver, and I hadn't seen him since I played.
Wow.
He immediately beelines. He comes up to me and says, dude, I never got to thank you how much you helped me. He goes, I could not believe how much you helped me when I was a rookie. And it made me feel good because I didn't really think much about it, but I guess I did make an impact on him when I was there.
Well, JJ, you're a teacher, man. Like a teacher knows a teacher. Like you have this light about you, this glow that, it serves you. And I'm so thankful for this moment with you because, you are so inspiring. Like right now, you're inspiring to everybody that's listening to this or watching this on YouTube, right? Like, because I know, like, not at the level that you were, but as an athlete, I remember when that was over, right? And the shoes got hung up, and that it was like, okay, now what? What am I supposed to do? You know, like I was just supposed to win, and that's what I did. Now what? So talk to me about the now what.
Yeah. Yeah. So the transition to life after the game, when my ninth year came up, when I was with the Atlanta Falcons, and I got hurt my knee the second to last game. And once I got healthy, I thought, you know what? I never thought I'd play in the NFL. I got 9 years in. I'm 157 pounds.
Hey.
I'm still all in one piece. And Matt, I had always been planning for the transition. Like you, not totally like you, during the off season when I was in Kansas City, I would substitute teach
Really?
at the high schools. Yeah, I would substitute as a PE teacher.
You are
just to see if I wanted to do
JJ.
that. I did it a couple springs, and then I called the local high school, Lee Summit South, and volunteered to be their hurdle track coach.
What?
So I was the hurdle coach for 3 years during the off season, not only working with the kids, but they were helping me too, because I was keeping my speed up and training with the kids too. So I was dabbling to see if I wanted to go into coaching, and then I made some connections in the business world, some doctors. And so when my career ended, I still did some coaching in Oregon, track and football, and I had got involved in some medical companies in Kansas City. I had 2 medical companies and a fitness equipment company in Atlanta, and a rehab center too. And so I did all of that for about 10, 11 years because I really want to help people.
Right.
The problem was I didn't really have the freedom to kind of impact people the way I wanted to. The businesses you were controlled by so many dynamics. It was and even coaching in high school and stuff, it wasn't like when I was a kid. It's so different now.
It's even more different now.
It's even more crazy now. And so that's when I thought, JJ, you've always wanted to be a speaker. And when I was in Kansas City, when you're an athlete in the off season, they have what they call speaking engagements.
What?
Players go to schools, you talk to the grade schools, or you go to the community and you just go tell your story.
Yeah.
And I was never comfortable speaking in front of people, but I thought, here's something that I could maybe get comfortable with and maybe use later on.
Yep.
And so that was kind of the beginning of trying to be a public speaker. And I got involved in the direct sales industry, network marketing. I was in a health and wellness company, and they kept putting me on stage.
Yeah.
They kept putting me on stage to present and teach. And one day I'm up and I'm speaking in front of like 10,000 people.
Holy moly, JJ.
Yeah. I was speaking in front of 10,000 people, and they sent me the video, and I was looking at it, Matt, and I was like, you know what? That's not too bad. Maybe I can do this and do that. And I'm like, maybe I can do this speaking thing. And that was kind of like, okay, I want to be a professional speaker. I want to be a motivational speaker, but I want to take what I learned from my journey, the success tips, the winning strategies and principles, and teach other people so that whatever they're aspiring to achieve, those principles can be applied and help them too. How can I help other people? And that's why I do what I do today now.
Well, let's dig in, because I'm loving this. And what's really awesome, JJ, is how comfortable you are in your skin to share your soul. Because there's a lot of people in the world, and them, adults, that they're afraid. They're afraid to show their emotion and who they really are. And that's a big part of what I teach people, is that is always a challenge to how much should I show emotionally, right? So I want to like unpack a bit of the time at the Chiefs emotionally for you.
Yeah.
And some of the mindsets and the routines that you learned that worked for you, right? But also as a father, as a public speaker now, what are the routines now that you have? And I asked Nick the same question because I wanted to know. Because he said some things about the locker room, that this mindset that came from Carl Peterson and Marty Schottenheimer, that I never thought about Carl Peterson in the mix. And so I want you to talk a little bit about the mindset of the Chiefs, because, you know, we talked about before we got on the air, like, now it's like, oh, they're in the Super Bowl. Oh, they're in the Super Bowl. And I remember growing up, I was cheering so hard for you guys all the time, and we get so close. I think for me, and I know for you too, I think it was 1995, 96 AFC Championship against the Broncos, and Gerbach throws the interception in the end zone. That was one of the hardest losses of all time. And
yeah, I was in Atlanta then. I remember watching that game, feeling bad for them, you know.
Yeah. But I also wanted to bring this up because my brother Mark would get so mad at me if I didn't bring this up. Just briefly, because I want to have this moment.
Okay.
I were you at the game? Because I looked it up before the call. Were you at the game in Denver with Joe Montana when he hit Willie Davis on that right end zone?
Yes.
Tell me about that moment from your perspective as a player, because my brother and I, Mark, stayed up late that night. It was Monday Night Football, and we went crazy.
Yeah.
And I mean, that, like, Joe Montana, you got balls thrown to you from Joe. Like, just what was that moment like?
Yeah, that game was pretty incredible because, one, obviously was Monday Night Football. They were, you know, talking about Montana versus Elway. And if you recall, we kept losing to Denver Broncos year after year because Elway would lead these 1-minute drives down the field and we would lose. And it was so exhausting mentally and emotionally to continue to lose. So that moment when we had the ball last, Matt, I remember this because I was in the huddle with Dave Craig, great quarterback, but I was in the huddle with him when we had that shot. And I was in the huddle with, Steve DeBerg, great quarterback. The difference was when I got in that huddle and we were on the 15 or something, I'm looking to the right and I go, we got Montana this guy. This is not unfamiliar territory for him. Been there, done that.
Oh, that's so
do your job because he's going to do your job. And the confidence he exuded when he came in that huddle, he's like, all right, guys, we're winning this game. It's cold out here. We're driving down the field and we're going to win it. Just that confidence he had, it was so contagious.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, Jay, do your job. We got this. Yeah. So as we're kind of, chipping ourselves way down the field, and then we get to that one part, it's, we're on the 5 or 3, we're in the huddle, and they called X corner. The play was for me. It was X corner.
Oh.
And see, a lot of people don't know is this is how remarkable Joe is. So it's X corner. I'm over here. Willie's over there. So Montana drops back, and he looks, and I'm double teamed.
Oh.
So he just comes off me. And then he scans right, and he's looking to the middle, and he knows Willie's the last outlet. And he makes that perfect throw outside. Willie makes a great catch. Game over.
You know what, JJ? In this moment, I just realized that play is very similar to the one that just won the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Yeah. And that was, the type of leader Montana was, and the composure he showed many times in those critical moments that, I'll say it again, we just had to make sure we did our job because we didn't have to wonder whether the quarterback is going to be able to make the throw or call the right play or the right audible. Joe always did. So when we won and all that, it was very exhilarating because you're like, oh my goodness, we finally came back at the end and beat Denver.
And
not only did we beat Denver, in Denver on
Monday
night.
Yes. Well, I just wanted to put that in there because my brother Mark, he's going to love that. Okay, so back to the mentality and the mental toughness and the routine as a player with the Chiefs. Walk me through that. Like, what was did you have a morning routine? Did you have coaches that were not just, your offensive coaches and your head coach. Like, tell me about the behind the scenes things that maybe normal people like me don't know.
Yeah. Well, every NFL team has a very strict daily method of operation. I mean, every team has a routine of success. So you come in on, let's say Wednesday, and it's, 6:30, you go to the gym, you work out before the first meeting, right away. Then you go to special teams meeting at 8:30. Then it's a team meeting. And in that team meeting, that's when Marty Schottenheimer, head coach, kind of sets the tone for the week as we are planning to, play against this next opponent. So he sets the tone and sets the game plan and really kind of puts us in this mental state of, doesn't matter what you did last week. It's how can we be better this week than the week before? So he really instilled that mentality in us. And then it was this offensive meetings, and now you're putting in the game plan. And this is the part where a lot of fans don't understand, is that you might have a playbook that may have 200 different plays, but every week they might add 25 to 40 new plays for your upcoming opponent specifically. So we spend time putting that in the classroom, and then we eventually go out on the field and we start practicing it. But after that, then you're meeting with the wide receiver coach. And this is the time when the wide receiver coach really critiques everything we're doing, the small little details on our routes, on our stance, on our hand positions, everything we need to do as a wide receiver. And so there's a lot of studying and strategy and preparation that takes place within the first 6 hours before you even practice, Then you go on the field, and then you do all this for 2-3 hours, And then when that's over, you watch the practice film that you just had.
The same day?
Yes, same day, to make sure you are running your routes correctly, or your responsibilities, correct any errors so that you don't make the same errors the next day. So you're doing that you're doing that in the film session. And
that's
then
why you're a pro.
Check this out. Then you go home and they give you film so you can see and study the guy who's going to cover you, as well as the defensive secondary. So you go home and you do your own studying to prepare for, if I'm playing against Deion Sanders, I might watch 3 or 4 of his game films just to see a tendency that I might be able to capitalize on.
Whoa. And that is just what the team expects.
Yeah, that's the normal schedule of an NFL player during the season. So when a guy's not playing well, or maybe they're inconsistent, or they're making mental errors, there's something in the routine that they're not sticking to.
Oh, wow. So that's the general routine schedule of an NFL player, right?
Yeah.
And so JJ, because you were elite at what you did, what was your personal routine that you added to that?
Yeah, great question. So my personal routine was, because I recognized what my weaknesses were. I was 5'10", 157 pounds. And my weakness was that whenever the big guys could get their hands on me, if they're in man-to-man and they can get their hands on me, they could take me out of the play.
Yeah.
So Matt, I spent so much time working on beating man-to-man, bump and run, press technique when the guy's right in front of you.
Yeah.
So I had like a list. I was so obsessed with this. I had a list of, I call them releases, how I would release off the ball. Oh. And so part of my preparation every week is like, okay, if I'm playing, again, Deion Sanders, and I've studied him, I know what releases I need to do on him on certain routes. And so I would spend time in the mirror just working on my releases. Okay, it's slant, Deion's playing like this, I'm gonna move him like this. There were all the little things I did, because obviously I studied my plays, I would study my audibles, and I would study film, but my competitive edge was I was a speed guy, I had great quickness, and if I can beat the guy in front of me, then I'm more of an asset to our team. So I spent a lot of extra time working on man-to-man, bump and run, so that when a guy's in front of me, I was confident that I knew what release I was going to do and what his
Wow.
tendencies were and how I could beat him. So that was a huge part of my routine. And it's one of the reasons why I stayed in the league as long as I did, in spite of how light I was.
Man. So everybody that's listening, the NFL players get paid to do a job, and it sounds like it's not just an 8-hour day. No.
No, not at all.
And that
It's,
doesn't even count you having to do like little parties here and there and show up, speaking events,
yeah.
like
Tuesday was kind of our day. Tuesday was our day for appearances, and if we have a home game, then Saturday afternoon. But yeah, it was that was one of the Matt when I got drafted. This is what my first impression was. Man, this is cool. I get to play football on 3 hours a day. I got all this free time, and then when I get there, I'm like, this is a job. This is like 6 to 6, and then you keep doing it. That was a wake up call,
yeah.
but you realize, okay, this is a job. This is your business. This is how you take care of your family. So this is what's required of you. And I got to tell you this too. I spent so much time in my preparation. I would even include my wife
Wow.
because there were so many audibles. There were so many possible plays they would call. So my wife and I had a routine.
She tests
Every
you.
Saturday, she would go through the audibles.
Yeah, that's awesome.
She would just yell out the audibles. And understand this, there might be 200 audibles. Joe might only call maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 6, but you got to know those.
200 audibles?
Oh, yeah, there could be 200. And some of those audibles, if it's loud, it's a signal. So I would teach my wife the signals. So she would give me the signals and I would say hitch. But that was a huge part of preparation, because the thing is, when you go into the game on Sunday and it's game day, you got to trust your preparation. You need time to think of, it's like you have to instinctively execute, because you're going against the best athletes in the world. And that guy in front of you, he's just as fast, he's just as athletic. So you got to take all the thought process out and be able to just instinctively do your job.
Oh, I love that. And I'm sure you speak about that, right?
Yeah.
And so what I teach, this is perfect. You're going to love this. There's a craft to football. There's a technique to football. So the craft of football as a wide receiver would be what? You got footwork. You were just talking about hand releases, catching the ball, routes, right?
Yeah.
All of those things, right? So that's just the craft, right? You're going to love this. So in voice, the craft is voice technique. And so there's a certain technique that we use to strengthen the muscles in our throat, all right? Artistry. And so JJ mastered the craft of football as a wide receiver. JJ then had to take that craft and use it in art and make his own way. All right. So we talked about Lynn Swan and how Lynn had an art to the way he would catch the ball. I remember you did this one a lot. Boom.
Yeah.
Over the shoulder. Like that's hard to do.
Right.
But you had an art to it that we love to watch, right? Mm-hmm. And so you made that craft, the fundamentals of football, into JJ's art. Mm. And he mastered that art, that delivery system of his way of football. And then the most important part, which is what you just brought up. And this is why I love going to Arrowhead, the magic, the electricity, right? Mm-hmm. Then when you mastered the craft and you've studied it and you worked on it and it becomes instinct, then you can deliver it in your way, in JJ's way. Yeah. And for me, it's helping people unpack their stories, the hardships, the trauma, and packaging it in their way, in the way that they want to speak, right? Same thing. And then magic. Magic is when you're in flow state and you don't have to think about it. You are just present and you're in that moment and you feel that energy. Yeah. And that's when the craziest things happen. And I'm sure there's catches that you made that you're probably like, man, I don't know how I caught that. Yeah. I have no idea, right? Yep. And even Joe, right? He made that pass. How did he do that? And now we have Mahomes. Yeah. He mastered the craft of being a quarterback. He mastered the fundamentals. He did it his way. Andy gave him that way to do it his way. And now he's creating. And that's what you did too, JJ. You got to create in that professional league with the best athletes in the world. You got to make magic.
Well said. Well said. Yeah, I agree. And I would even add too, the beauty of it is, you know, when you have that preparation and you really have that mastery over the fundamentals, it helps so much because you're naturally under a high level of pressure. The pressure is like nothing else. When people ask me, Matt, what was the difficult part of playing in NFL? It's not getting hit by Junior Seau or some big linebacker or Ronnie Lott. No, it's the pressure to perform at your best every single play. And what you just articulated, when you have really mastered that and you're comfortable with what you're doing, that pressure kind of goes away. It allows you to focus and catch the ball and do those things. And that's where I would see why some guys wouldn't make it, because they could not escape that pressure and it affect their ability to perform the fundamentals.
So now let's get to JJ now. And JJ, this is such a good interview, man. Like you're such a good man. Like you got such a big heart, and I know that the Chiefs fans and all over the world and the Falcons fans and everybody that knows you loves you so much, because you exude love. Like you literally exude love and hope, and you see the best version of people. I can feel it. And that's why, dude, you were an NFL player, a star for the Chiefs, and you're giving back to high school kids. Like, that's incredible. And I just want to acknowledge you and tell you, like, I'm so grateful that we got to do this today, because you've made me even more of a fan of JJ Birden. Because
I appreciate that. I really do. It's, I consider it a privilege. And I think for me, the way I was raised by my mom, I always had the perspective of, just appreciating what you have, always being kind and being willing to help others, be giving. And so when I got to the NFL, I never looked at it as if I was a star player.
Yeah.
It was my job. It was a privilege to have that job. It was how I took care of my family. And that's why I always, if somebody wanted an autograph, no problem. Somebody want to chat with me, no problem. I do it all the time. And I tell you this, I love it, because to this day, I get all these messages on social media. Man, you came up to me when I was a kid and you signed this, and I have never had a negative comment. It's just because I was always wanted to be, I'm just a regular guy. I just happen to play a pretty amazing sport. So I never thought that I was better than someone else or bigger. It was a privilege to be in the NFL. And so when I retired, I recognize that people are attracted to that and all that. And that's great. But I always wanted to make sure that people understand at the end of the day, I just want to be a nice, good guy and be kind to everyone and set a good example.
You really are. I mean, I'm already like, man, I got to get me a JJ Birden jersey, like as soon as possible. But let's talk about now, right? Let's talk about the mission now, because I know my mission has definitely changed since public school, to helping people find their voice all over the world with the teaching that I do. So I want to know about the mission now. Like what's, I'm going to ask you 4 questions. All right. And the mission's going to be in that, obviously. But JJ, what do you love more than anything in the whole world?
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, besides my relationship with God. So that's kind of a no-brainer.
That's
I think,
fine.
But it's definitely my wife.
Yeah.
I mean, I have been fortunate to be married to an incredible woman for 33 and a half years.
Holy moly.
Met in college, and just, I was just this little whippersnapper running around. I saw this beautiful mixed light-skinned girl. I just instantly fell in love, and we dated for 3 years, but she's been with me from day one. And we've worked. I mean, marriage is not easy, but we've worked together and really committed to our relationship, and just I love it. And we have 3 children. I don't know if you know this, but we have 3 biological children. And then in 2007, I received a call from my nephew, Justin, in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my nieces and nephews were in trouble. And so I
Mm.
flew out to Tulsa the next day to check on them. And then
Mm.
24 hours later, I'm in a courthouse standing before a judge. And the judge is like, well, Mr. Burden, we're going to take your 5 nieces and nephews and place them in 5 separate foster homes.
Oh no.
You're the next of kin. So what would you like to do? So I'm just like, I'm like, but I did what any smart husband would do. I was like, Judge, let me call my wife first. And here's what's incredible about my wife. I go out in the hall, I call my wife,
Oh.
I drop this bombshell, and I'm like, babe, I won't bring the children back. I don't want to do anything that's going to really disrupt our family. And she says, babe, could you sleep at night knowing we could have made a difference?
Oh.
Done deal. And I don't know if you can see it. Took all 8 of the children.
Look at you.
And that was our family. Raised from
Beautiful.
3 children to 8 children, family of 10. And we raised them all together. And our young one, Alicia, was 6 when we got her. She's
Oh.
now moved out, 22, and we're now empty nesters.
JJ. Now that is an accomplishment, man.
So when I say my wife, she's pretty amazing. There's not a lot of women would, okay, let's add 5 more children. But she did. And she's shown her love in so many different ways. And we're now grandchildren. We have 2 grandchildren, so we're grandparents. And so, yeah,
Oh.
I would definitely put her up there.
All right. Next question. You nailed it. What makes you tick? What gives you joy? What gives you excitement?
Oh man, I just have this, this ever pursuit of just being my best. Being my best. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. It could be, how can I be my best at a husband, a father, my workouts, my
I
work?
love it. I love
It's
it.
that thing that was instilled in me at a very young age, is that I don't have to win. I just always want to give my best. So that when I lay my head down on my pillow at night, I say, hey, did I give my best today? I want to be able to say yes. Because sometimes I say no. and then I make sure that I don't have back-to-back bad days, but that's just what makes me tick. It doesn't matter what we're doing. I could be playing a
Mm.
game, I could be watching TV. I just want to be my best and give my best, because that's something I can control.
Mm. I want to just segue real fast. We'll come back to the questions in a second, but I did ask about your routine. I'd
Yeah.
love to know your morning routine right now.
Yeah, my morning routine is pretty much the same it's been for years. I
Okay.
mean, I wake up and it's like, put my clothes on, go to the gym.
Yep.
I have to do it early because
Same.
I can't. Gone are the days when I can work out at 12 or 2 or
Yep.
3. As I've gotten older, I don't have the energy.
Nope.
And I like the first thing in the morning, because when I have that early morning workout, it helps me kind of deal with stress, anxiety. It gets me kind of the mental clarity to attack
Yeah,
the day.
absolutely. What time do you usually get up?
I wake up somewhere around anywhere from 5 to 6:30.
Yep.
Like today, I woke up at 6.
Yep.
Went to the gym about 6:45. So that's a huge part of my morning routine. And then also too, I'm big on scheduling. I've heard this saying, the enemy of success is disorganization.
Yeah.
And so I'm very organized from a schedule standpoint. So Matt, the night before, I've set my schedule. I know what I'm doing after the workout. And so I've got time blocked here. So
Yep.
I always want to kind of hit the ground running. So once I get that workout in, it's look at the calendar, and then it's the different things I have on my schedule throughout the day. So, and then usually when I finish work, then it's my wife and I get together, and then we spend time together. We eat together. We play games. We watch TV. We just that's our time
Mhm.
after we kind of punch the clock, so to speak.
There you go. All right. Next question. And you have a lot, so I'm excited to hear this. What are your purposes?
Purposes. Good question. I think one of the main purposes I have is how can I help people? I want to help people
Yeah.
in some kind of capacity. if someone is striving to improve in some particular area, I'm like, how can I serve them? How can I help them? And so it's not like a specific area. It's kind of like a variety of area, but it's like if someone has a need or they're looking for a solution, I'm hoping that I have that solution and I can help them in some way or another. That's kind of really what I love to really fill my life from day to day. It's like, how can I help someone, achieve the goals that are important to them?
Mm. Love, love, love it. And it makes sense why you're speaking now a lot. So the last question, and the question that we are all trying to figure out, is why is JJ Birden on Earth?
Oh man, I don't know. That's a good one. I think, just the journey I have had in just being undersized, being disadvantaged early
Mhm.
on, dealing with a lot of dream stealers, naysayers, negative Nellies. I've had that
Mm.
throughout my entire life. And I think at times I'm here to instill in people that it doesn't matter what people say about you, your choices, your goals, your journeys. It does not matter. If they
Mm.
don't believe in your journey, that's okay. But it's important for you to believe in what you're pursuing and what you're doing, and you stay committed to it, because that is what happened to me. I had all the naysayers, but I didn't listen to them. I just focused on what I needed to do and stay committed to it as well. So I think that I'm here to really inspire and motivate and help others to understand that you can achieve anything you want if you're
Mm.
willing to stay committed, if you're
Mm.
willing to have the right mindset, and if you're willing to do the work, because nobody's going to give it to you.
Yeah, that's right. So the speeches that you've been given, JJ, what is the actual work that you're doing right now? Is it just speaking? Do you have are you coaching people? Like what is it that your businesses are right now that you're doing?
Yeah, so two businesses. One, I'm in a company called Isogenics, which is a health and wellness direct selling company. I've been with them about 10 years. And I work with a lot of customers and nutritional products and helping them live a healthy lifestyle. Some of those also like to be entrepreneurs. So I train them on how to be
Awesome.
entrepreneurs and create leverage income. And then the other side, obviously, I'm a professional speaker. And right now I have I have a couple, but I've eliminated most of it. But I have one main keynote called Seizing Your Opportunities.
Okay.
And it's really a general presentation I can give to anyone, because we all have opportunities in life. It could be something you want to do, you need to do, you have to do. And so I have a keynote that really highlights, here are the 4 simple success tips to seize those opportunities. I
Yeah.
talk about mindset, I talk about your why, I talk about game planning, and I talk about doing the work. Now, I'm really excited, and you're getting an early peek of this.
Let's go. I love early
I,
peaks. I love
I'm about
surprises.
to release a brand new keynote in 2 weeks that I'm really jacked up about, because I've been speaking for a while. And it kind of takes time to really figure out what is really your niche. What
Yep.
do the audience really respond to you? And I can tell from the 200 presentations I've done. So I'm about to release a presentation called Winning as an Underdog.
Ah, that
Yeah.
makes so much sense.
And the whole theme is being an underdog gives you a stealth opportunity to win.
Yes.
And it's a message to really give to, obviously, it can be given to companies that are smaller in stature, that are competing with bigger companies and bigger budgets and bigger names, or it can be for an individual that's sitting there who feels they're an underdog because
Mm.
maybe in their family or maybe on the team or maybe within their company, but it's something that I can really speak from the heart. And
Oh, I
so
feel it.
I'm really excited about it, because one of the things I've learned since I retired, Matt, I had no idea until we did some research on this. You know that in the last 40 plus years, and it could be farther, we're still trying to research this. There has not been an NFL player who had a longer career than me that weighed under 160 pounds.
What?
I've done the research,
You better
under
own that.
160 pounds. And that message, and that's me. And I
Yeah.
know that I've met so many people that feel like they're not being given a fair chance, or feel that someone doesn't believe in them, or feel that maybe their boss, their teacher, their coach, the decision makers lack confidence in their ability to perform at the level they need. I've been there.
Mm,
I've done that. So in this
mhm.
presentation, it's really about helping people understand that being an underdog gives you an advantage
Yep.
if you know how to take advantage of it. And that's what
Yep.
I'm going to be sharing with the audience.
Yeah. So is there a JJ Birden book yet?
Good question. Well, I do have one book. One second.
All right.
So I did write my first book, which was called Seizing Your Up. It was about when opportunity knocks, 8 surefire ways to take advantage. And this is really kind of like the template for seizing your opportunities. This is
Yep.
my first book. But with the emergence of where the direction I'm going now, because you're going to see a lot of underdog content
Yep.
on the social media in the next couple of weeks, I'm really thinking about writing an autobiography, because I've had some reporters that have asked me to said, hey, you need to do it. But it'll be kind of like more like an underdog theme. Like it might be like, under 160 pounds, the autobiography of JJ, or something like that,
Yes.
that tells the story, but that teaches throughout the story. So you'll like this. So I've been reading a bunch of books to kind of see what other people have written as far as autobiographies. Today I started reading Christian Okoye's autobiography. It's pretty good.
I want to
I'm up
read
to
it.
the
I haven't got
you
it
got to
yet.
read it. I just got it last week. I've been reading it on my phone. I'm up to the point where he's like at Azusa Pacific, but man, what he went through at the beginning, I had no idea. But
Yeah,
anyway, so
he is so close to being on this podcast, by the
oh
way.
yeah, you
So
got to have
I
him.
want to get him on the podcast. So if you have any pull, man, like send him a
Yeah,
message, be like, hey,
I'll tell him. I'll say you got to do his podcast, because I literally have been reading his book, and it's I'm like, wow, I did not know some of these things about Christians past.
oh man. Well, and I think what's really beautiful, JJ, is this, because I'm living this right now. Like, there's all these things that we did, like all these legs of our life, right? Well,
Mhm.
you're a track and football, and you're like, oh, let's go football, right? And then NFL, that was a leg. College was a leg, right? And then speaking, I get married, that's a leg. And then you have these kids. Now we're gonna have more kids. That's another leg. And so you have all these like directions of life, right?
Yeah.
That we live. And these are not like little short legs. These are long legs. These are like years of legs, right?
Right.
And now what I see with you and what's happening with me too is all of that is coming together now to God's purpose for you, which is to help people believe and have faith that they're on this earth for a reason, that it's okay that the world may think they're not good enough, not strong enough, not smart enough. They're too small. Because what you're doing is you're going to empower all these people, JJ, and tell them, no, no, no. God made you just the way you're supposed to be. And now you got to find your gifts. You got to dig deep. You got to work hard like my mom taught me. Right. And I just, man, this has been such a privilege to spend time with you today. And, I know we'll probably talk later and message each other, but JJ, you're going to change so many lives. And I just want to encourage you to just be JJ, because that's all the world needs from you, man. Like it's a beautiful thing that you are literally doing what you're supposed to do, and you're shining that light, and it's amazing.
Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate your kind words. I appreciate the opportunity to be on here and share. And I hope just, one listener maybe gets one little success tip or something that I said. That's always my goal. It's like, I spoke 2 weeks ago at the O'Reilly Auto Parts leadership event. There was 10,000 people there.
Yep.
And I just said, my goal is that one person. But when I was done, everybody was coming up telling me, which
Yep.
was really, really cool. And I guess the thing that I want people to understand, and this is like, I'm going to leave you with this quote. This is something I made up, but it's really important to me, is I want everyone to understand this. we all have opportunities in life, something we want to do, something that's important to us. And here's what I learned. And I want everybody to remember this. When opportunity knocks, you don't answer the door. You rip the door off the hinges and you make opportunity stay.
Yes.
Meaning that anything you want, anything you desire, it's up to you. You are the key, no one else. And we have the power to make that happen.
Yes, man, JJ, I feel you so deeply. Like, and the audience is gonna love this. The clips that are gonna come out of this, people are just gonna be like, "Holy cow, man, JJ, go!" How can people get a hold of you if they want you to come speak? How can they get in touch with you? How can they follow you and support you?
Yeah, the best place is my website, JJBirden.com. That's where you can purchase my book. When it's purchased through there, I sign them personally. And then I'm all over social media. As you know, I'm very active. JJ Birden, that's my username on every platform. And, I share a little bit of everything. I like to share a little bit so people get to know who I am, not just as a former NFL player, but I let them see the family side, the husband side, the fitness side, the entrepreneur side, the motivational side. I give them a variety so that when people go to my page, I want them to know that they're going to get some content that makes them feel good or that gives them some kind of value, something positive, because there's a lot of crazy stuff on social media. And I just want to make sure none of that's on my pages.
Yeah, man. Well, thank you so much for being on the show, JJ. And hopefully maybe in the future when the second book comes out, we can have you on again and have you talk about that and dive into that. But thank you so much for being on the show today, JJ. And we will see you guys next week.
Thanks,
Bye.
Matt. Appreciate you. Keep up the good work.
Yeah.